North Korea just unveiled a submarine that's not only shocking the military world, but it's green. Yes, green. The new Sinpo-Class Submarine isn't just about color, though. It's equipped with missile launch capabilities and could reshape underwater warfare in Asia. From shallow coastal sneaks to potential nuclear launches, this isn't your average rusty relic. With tensions rising and eyes watching from Tokyo to Washington, this sub is more than a headline. It's a bold move. Why green? What can it actually do? And is it a real threat or just for show? Let's dive into North Korea's most mysterious war machine yet. The green submarine mystery. When you think of submarines, one color probably comes to mind: black. It's the standard. But not in North Korea. Some of their submarines, yes, actual war-ready vessels, are painted green. And while this might sound like a joke or a meme, it's 100% true. Photos from the region clearly show green-tinted subs cruising the coastlines, standing out from the typical deep-sea shadow look. But why green? The answer isn't fashion, it's function. North Korea's eastern coast borders the East Sea, where cold northern currents mix with warmer southern waters. This natural blend causes a bloom of plankton, giving the water a greenish hue. So believe it or not, green paint actually works as camouflage here. As odd as it sounds, this choice helps the sub blend into the water better from above, especially when aircraft or drones are scanning for surface movement. This isn't the only country that experiments with subcolors. Israel's Dolphin-class submarines have been seen painted dark blue to match the deeper, clearer waters of the Mediterranean. Even Iran's Ghadir-class subs, derived from North Korean Yono designs, sport unique coatings for their local conditions. So while green might seem silly, it's not that unusual when seen through the lens of regional strategies. Now, about that viral rumor that Kim Jong-un thought submarines needed to blend with trees, yeah, that one's probably fake. There's no evidence the decision came from that logic. But like many strange-sounding North Korean stories, it spread online like wildfire. Still behind the joke is a real strategy. Camouflage matters, especially when your fleet includes older, noisier submarines that can't dive as deep as modern ones. Blending into the environment from above gives them a small but real advantage. So yes, North Korea's green submarines are real, and there's some smart thinking behind the paint. But this isn't just about color, it's about geography and survival. The shape of the land, the sea depth, and who's watching the coast all shape how North Korea builds and hides its underwater fleet. Let's take a closer look at where these subs actually operate. Strategic geography. North Korea sits on a peninsula surrounded by powerful enemies in unpredictable waters. Geography isn't just a background detail here, it's a huge factor in how they build and use their navy. To the west, you've got the Yellow Sea, shallow, muddy, and bordered by China. To the east, there's the much deeper East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan, where tensions run high. Let's start with the west. The Yellow Sea might sound calm, but it's not ideal for deep-sea missions. The water here is full of sediment from rivers like the Yellow River, giving it a murky brownish tint. But for North Korea, this side of the coast feels safer. China's right there, acting as a sort of protective neighbor. Because of that, North Korea doesn't position its best submarines in the Yellow Sea. It's mostly used for short-range patrols and defense drills. Now the East Sea, that's where things get serious. This body of water is deep, cold, and shared with Japan, South Korea, and even the United States through Allied patrols. It's the front line for North Korea's biggest and most important submarines. Because it's deeper, subs can hide better. But it's also much more dangerous, packed with enemy sonar systems and anti-submarine aircraft constantly on the hunt. Here's where that green camouflage starts to make sense. The East Sea isn't just deep, it's biologically active. Plankton blooms in the region, give the water a green hue, especially in spring and summer. So painting the upper half of a sub green isn't just about style, it's about survival when aircraft are scanning from above with infrared and optical sensors. As military expert Joseph Dempsey put it, North Korea's submarine deployment is shaped more by geography than by capability. Simply put, Where they can go safely is often more important than what they can do when they get there. This makes every choice, from where to launch to what color to paint, a high-stakes decision and a risky neighborhood. From muddy west coast to dangerous deep-sea waters in the east, North Korea's underwater game is all about navigating around its limitations. And when your subs are outdated and noisy, hiding becomes a priority. That's where camouflage tactics go beyond simple paint jobs. Let's dive deeper into how older submarines like North Korea's manage to hide in plain sight. Camouflage tactics. Camouflage isn't just for soldiers in forests. It's a big deal underwater too, especially when your subs can't dive as deep or move as silently as modern ones. For North Korea, using every trick to stay hidden is crucial. That's why they don't just rely on shape or depth. They use paint and sound absorption too. You've already heard about the green upper coatings on some North Korean submarines. These aren't just visual camouflage. They also help blend with surface reflection patterns. From above, the green sea can look almost like a forest, a weird but real effect caused by algae and sunlight. Aircraft scanning with the naked eye or using light sensors might miss a green sub that would stand out if it were black. But beyond color, there's sound. Modern submarines, like those in the US or UK, use special rubber tiles on the outside. These tiles absorb sound made by the sub's own systems and distort sonar waves from enemy ships. The tiles are black because they're made from carbon black, a material that's not just dark, but helps absorb pressure and noise. This is why most modern subs today are black, not just for style, but for function. The US Navy once painted submarines light gray, good for hiding in fog. Then they switched to dark blue for better ocean blending. But the paint wore off quickly. Black turned out to be durable and practical. As naval historian Norman Palmar once said, camouflage is less about what the crew sees and more about what the enemy doesn't. That mindset applies even more to countries like North Korea, where resources are tight and every edge counts. In North Korea's case, their Romeo Class and Sinpo-Class subs operate close to shore and often at shallow depths. That means they're more visible to aircraft and patrol ships. Camouflage, both visual and acoustic, helps them stay in the game, even when their tech falls short of global standards. They might look rusty, slow, and outdated, but North Korea's submarines are still in the fight. And now there's a new player on the scene, the Sinpo-Class. It's the most modern sub North Korea has built to date, and it's making headlines around the world. Coming up next, what the Sinpo-Class can really do and why it matters. The Sinpo-Class Submarine. In 2023, North Korea made headlines again, but this time not with a missile test. Instead, it was a new submarine. Officially called the Hero Kim Kun-ok, this vessel is the most advanced North Korean submarine ever shown to the world. It's part of what's known as the Sinpo-Class, and many analysts believe it could carry ballistic missiles, a major leap in capability. This sub isn't just a slight upgrade, it's a big statement. The design appears to be based on the old Romeo Class, but with major structural changes. What stands out most is its enlarged sail, the vertical structure on top of the sub. That section seems to house missile launch tubes, possibly for short or medium-range nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. If that's true, this would be North Korea's first real step towards submarine-launched nuclear weapons. The sub was revealed during a grand ceremony, complete with flags, photos, and Kim Jong-un himself calling it a key part of North Korea's growing nuclear deterrent. He was quoted saying, "This submarine will serve as a vital part of our underwater combat force." While experts debate its true effectiveness, one thing is clear: this new vessel is meant to be seen, both by the world and by North Korea's rivals. But there are still many unanswered questions. We don't know how many missiles it can carry, how reliable its systems are, or how deep it can dive. Some analysts believe it might still be a prototype or political prop, not yet ready for serious combat. Still, even an experimental sub that can launch nuclear missiles from underwater would represent a major shift in North Korea's military posture. The Sinpo-Class might be the new kid on the block, but its design pulls heavily from older models, especially the Romeo Class. To understand just how far North Korea has come, we need to rewind the clock and look at where it all started. Let's take a look back at the rusty, rugged backbone of North Korea's subfleet, the Romeo Class. Romeo Class legacy. Before the Sinpo-Class made waves, the Romeo Class submarines were North Korea's pride and workhorses. These are diesel-electric subs designed by the Soviet Union in the 1950s. Production in Russia ended in the 60s, but in North Korea they're still going strong. In fact, they operated over 20 of them, making it the largest Romeo fleet in the world. It all started when the Soviets shared the blueprint with China and North Korea in the 1960s. North Korea imported 7 Romeo subs from China between 1973 and 1975. After that, they began building their own, with around 13 more rolling out from local shipyards between 1976 and 1995. That means some of these boats are nearly 50 years old and still on patrol. But here's the truth. By today's standards, these subs are seriously outdated. They need to surface often, making them easy to detect. Their top speed underwater is around 13 knots, compared to over 25 knots for modern US nuclear subs. And they're noisy, which is a big problem when stealth is the name of the game. As one analyst put it, they're relics from another era, but still dangerous if underestimated. Despite their age, these subs still have some value. They're used for training, local patrols, and even psychological warfare. Just having a fleet of subs, even older ones, sends a signal to neighboring countries. Plus, they might serve as test platforms for newer weapons or technology, like the launch systems used on the Sinpo-Class. So while they aren't high-tech, they're still a key piece of North Korea's naval puzzle. The Romeo Class tells the story of how North Korea's Navy was built: tough, old school, and persistent. But the country's strategy today isn't just about building better subs. It's about outsmarting bigger navies. And that means using numbers, geography, and even decoys. Let's explore what North Korea's entire submarine fleet looks like and how they're using it in clever ways. Fleet composition. When it comes to submarine fleets, North Korea plays a different game. While most advanced navies focus on high-tech nuclear submarines, North Korea has gone the opposite route, building up one of the largest fleets in the world. But don't let that number impress you too fast. Their real strategy is built around quantity, not quality. Estimates say North Korea operates around 70 submarines, more than any other country in East Asia. But here's the catch. Most of these subs are small, outdated, or both. They rely heavily on the old Romeo class, as well as midget submarines like the Yono and Sango classes. These smaller boats operate close to shore, and some are designed for infiltration missions, like sneaking commandos into enemy territory. The fleet is split across 2 key regions, the Yellow Sea on the west and the East Sea on the east. But the most powerful units, including the new Sinpo-Class, are based in the East Sea, where deeper waters allow for better hiding. Midget subs, on the other hand, are perfect for shallow coastal patrols, making them ideal for quick ambushes or covert missions. Despite their limitations, North Korea's submarine fleet is built to harass, distract, and survive, not necessarily win big naval battles. As military strategist Ankit Panda once said, "It's not about sinking aircraft carriers. It's about staying alive long enough to complicate the enemy's plans." That's the real power of their numbers, forcing others to always look over their shoulder. North Korea's subs may be old, small, and noisy, but there are a lot of them. And in modern warfare, just creating confusion can be a major weapon. Still, if North Korea really wants to go toe-to-toe with the world's top navies, they'll need more than diesel engines. Next up, can they build a nuclear-powered submarine? Underwater ambitions. While most of North Korea's submarines are diesel-electric and decades old, there's talk, and growing concern, that Pyongyang has its eyes set on something far more advanced: nuclear-powered submarines. That's a serious leap in technology. If successful, it would allow North Korea to stay underwater for months instead of days, making its presence much harder to track. Kim Jong-un hinted at this in Itaewon, calling for a push to develop a nuclear-powered submarine and underwater-launched nuclear weapons. Those words sent shockwaves through military circles. Nuclear propulsion isn't just about longer patrols, it means stealth, range, and global reach. And if North Korea adds ballistic missiles to that platform, it's a full-blown second strike capability. something only a few world powers currently have. But here's the catch. Building a nuclear-powered submarine is extremely difficult. It requires compact nuclear reactors, special shielding, and advanced materials that can withstand enormous underwater pressure and heat. For a country under strict sanctions and limited access to high-end tech, this is a massive challenge. As military analyst Vipin Narang put it, if they pull this off, it'll be a game changer. But it's a big if. There's also the possibility of foreign help. Some experts speculate North Korea might be getting assistance, directly or indirectly, from nations like Russia. While nothing has been proven, North Korea has a long history of reverse engineering and adapting older designs from allies. If even a basic nuclear submarine hits the water, it would completely change naval calculations in the region. If North Korea ever manages to get a nuclear-powered submarine out to sea, the threat level will rise dramatically. But even without that, their current focus on missile systems, especially submarine-launched ones, is already causing major concern. Let's break down how North Korea is upgrading from old-school torpedoes to modern SLBMs, and what that means for the balance of power. Missile capabilities. Submarines aren't just for sneaking around, they're mobile missile platforms. And North Korea has been working hard to turn their subs into launch pads for nuclear weapons. Over the past few years, they've tested a family of missiles called Pukguksong, designed specifically to be launched from underwater. That's a huge leap from the basic torpedo setups they relied on for decades. The Pukguksong-1 made headlines in 2016 when it was launched from a submerged barge. Since then, they've tested Pukguksong-3, and images suggest they're preparing for even more advanced versions like Pukguksong-4 and Pukguksong-5. These missiles are solid-fueled, which means they can be launched more quickly and are easier to hide. Two very dangerous qualities in a nuclear context. What makes submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, so powerful is their stealth. If you can't track the submarine, you can't stop the missile launch. It's this second strike capability that gives countries a powerful deterrent, knowing they can still strike back even if their land-based systems are destroyed. As U.S. Navy Admiral Charles Richard once said, "Our submarines ensure that no enemy can take away our ability to respond." North Korea still has a long way to go before it can reliably launch SLBMs from stealthy, survivable submarines like the U.S. or Russia. But every test they conduct, even from a barge or an old Romeo Class platform, is a step forward. And that progress is worrying countries like South Korea, Japan, and the United States, who now have to constantly scan the seas for possible launch threats. From outdated torpedoes to advanced ballistic missiles, North Korea's subs are evolving faster than many expected, but they still face major obstacles. Not just political, but technological. Can they really keep up with modern navies under the weight of sanctions and resource shortages? Next up, the big technical hurdles that could slow their progress. Technological challenges. Let's be real. Building a modern, stealthy, missile-ready submarine isn't just hard. It's almost impossible without outside help. North Korea is ambitious, but its submarine program is still held back by a long list of technical challenges. From noisy engines to weak sonar, their underwater fleet shows the clear limits of what a heavily sanctioned country can build alone. One of the biggest issues is noise control. Modern submarines use advanced rubber tiles and special engines to stay quiet. North Korea's subs, on the other hand, are loud by today's standards. That means they can be picked up more easily by enemy sonar, especially when operating close to South Korea or Japan. As one naval analyst put it, it's like driving an old diesel truck past someone's window at night. Then there's sensor technology. Submarines rely on sonar to see underwater, but North Korea's systems are believed to be outdated, with limited detection range and poor accuracy. That makes it harder for them to locate threats or avoid them. Navigation and fire control systems are also likely using decades-old software, which is clunky and unreliable by modern standards. Finally, there's the issue of resource limitations. Building submarines isn't just about blueprints. It takes rare metals, specialized components, and high-precision tools. International sanctions make it extremely hard for North Korea to import these. While they've become good at reverse engineering, their ability to build submarines is still limited. North Korea is still a country with a long way to go before it can reliably launch SLBMs from stealthy, survivable submarines like the U.S. or Russia. But every test they conduct, even from a barge or an old Romeo Class platform, is a step forward. And that progress is worrying countries like South Korea, Japan, and the United States, who now have to constantly scan the seas for possible launch threats. There's a big difference between copying a part and building an entire system that works under pressure, underwater, for years. Despite all this, North Korea has shown it can be resourceful and relentless. They might not match the US Navy ship for ship, but they don't need to. As long as they can keep building and improving slowly, their fleet remains a threat. Not because of how strong it is, but because of how unpredictable it can be. Even with old engines and borrowed designs, North Korea is slowly making waves, and the world is watching closely. So how are other countries reacting to these submarine upgrades? Let's look at the global response and why the Sinpo-Class has caught the attention of navies around the world. Global reactions. When North Korea unveiled its new Sinpo-Class submarine, the world didn't stay quiet. In fact, military analysts, governments, and intelligence agencies across Asia and the West took notice. It wasn't just about the sub's paint job or launch tubes. It was the message. North Korea was saying, loud and clear, we're in the underwater game now, and we're serious. In South Korea and Japan, the response was swift. Defense departments began reviewing their anti-submarine systems and boosting sonar surveillance across the East Sea. South Korea even held emergency naval drills weeks after the sub's reveal. Japanese officials warned that a sub capable of launching nuclear weapons from underwater raises the threat level dramatically. As Japan's chief cabinet secretary said, this changes the way we prepare. The United States also responded, not with panic, but with caution. U.S. Navy operations in the Pacific already include constant submarine tracking missions, but the Sinpo-Class means adding a new unknown to the mix. While the U.S. believes the sub isn't fully combat ready, they're not ignoring it. As one Pentagon official put it, in this game it doesn't have to work perfectly to be dangerous. Meanwhile, China and Russia took a different approach, publicly silent, but likely watching very closely. China in particular doesn't want instability near its borders. Any new North Korean capability could trigger arms buildups in the region, pulling China deeper into tensions it would rather avoid. The Sinpo-Class isn't just a regional story anymore. It's part of the global submarine chessboard. As navies around the world rethink their defenses, another layer of North Korea's strategy begins to emerge. One that goes beyond torpedoes and nuclear weapons. Because sometimes submarines don't just fight wars, they gather secrets. Coming up, how North Korea might be using its subs for espionage, infiltration, and silent surveillance. Espionage and intelligence submarines aren't only for launching missiles. They're also floating spy platforms, and North Korea knows it. With dozens of small, quiet diesel submarines in its fleet, Pyongyang has the tools to sneak close to enemy waters, conduct covert missions, and gather critical intelligence. For a country that thrives on secrecy, this makes perfect sense. Some of North Korea's smaller subs, like the Yono and Sangho classes, are ideal for shallow water ops. These vessels are believed to have been used for covert infiltration, inserting special forces or agents into South Korean territory. In fact, in 1996, a North Korean sub ran aground near Gangneung, South Korea, and its crew was linked to a spy mission gone wrong. That incident still echoes in military briefings today. Besides infiltration, subs can eavesdrop. When placed in the right position, they can monitor communications traffic, ship movements, or underwater cables. North Korea likely lacks the advanced equipment of US or Russian spy subs, but even basic gear can collect valuable info, especially if the enemy underestimates them. As one defense insider stated, sometimes it's not what you hear, it's what you see without being seen. More recently, concerns have grown about how North Korea could combine its espionage tactics with missile threats. A sub lurking near Allied waters could not only gather intel, it could also launch without warning. That potential gives their subs strategic value far beyond their price tag. It's not just about what the subs can do in war, it's about how they shape decisions in peace. While their strategic goals are murky, one thing is certain: North Korea is serious about its subs, even if it comes at a hidden cost. Beyond military threats, there's a less visible impact from all this activity underwater. Let's talk about something most people don't consider: the environmental price of secret submarine programs. Environmental considerations. Most people never think about submarines as environmental hazards, but they can be. Submarine construction, maintenance, and operation leave a mark on the ocean, especially when done without transparency. And in North Korea, where secrecy rules everything, it's nearly impossible to know the full impact their underwater fleet is having. First off, building submarines, especially large ones, requires cutting into coastal areas, using heavy metals, and discharging waste into nearby waters. Satellite imagery has shown expanded construction activity at Sinpo shipyard, likely linked to the new Sinpo-Class. But what happens to the runoff, the chemicals, or even the older parts left behind? In a country with little regulation, that pollution can spread unchecked. There's also the danger of fuel leaks and reactor accidents. While North Korea hasn't launched a nuclear-powered sub yet, if they ever do, the risks skyrocket. Even a minor radiation leak from a naval reactor could affect entire fishing zones, not just in North Korea, but across shared waters with South Korea, Japan, and Russia. As environmental activist Dr. Seo Kyung-won said, "Oceans don't respect borders." And let's not forget sunken vessels. With so many outdated subs in service, the chances of one failing at sea are high. A wrecked diesel sub leaking fuel or rusting in shallow waters could harm marine ecosystems for decades. Add that to sonar disruption and propeller noise, which confuse sea animals. And North Korea's subfleet could be doing quiet damage beyond politics. In a world where environmental accountability is becoming part of global security, North Korea's secretive submarine operations raise serious questions. The bigger their underwater ambitions grow, the more the world will need to look not just at what these subs do, but at what they leave behind. So from radiation risks to toxic shipyards, there's more beneath the waves than meets the eye. But after everything we've explored, the strategy, the tech, the threats, the big question remains. What's next? Is North Korea just bluffing, or are they really shifting the balance? Let's wrap this up with a look at where this whole story might go. Future outlook. As North Korea rolls out new submarines and talks up nuclear launches from underwater, it's tempting to ask, is this real, or is it just for show? The truth likely sits somewhere in the middle. North Korea may not have the most advanced subs, but it's building just enough capability to change the rules of the game. In the short term, we can expect more missile tests, sub launches, and propaganda pushes. Pyongyang wants to show strength, especially during moments of political tension. Whether or not their subs are truly ready for combat, the perception of a threat can be just as powerful. As one Western analyst put it, they only need to be dangerous enough to make you worry. Looking further ahead, if North Korea ever builds a true nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, it would be a massive shift. That would mean near-permanent underwater patrols, global strike reach, and a much harder-to-stop threat. It would also force the US and its allies to rethink every part of their missile defense strategy in the region. But there's another path, too. North Korea might use its growing submarine force as a bargaining chip, trading limits, or transparency for sanctions relief. If that happens, these steel monsters might end up negotiating more than fighting, used not just for war, but for leverage in peace talks. One thing's for sure, the green subs, the new launches, the Sinpo-Class, they're not just headlines. They're signs of a country trying to turn an outdated navy into a 21st century threat. Whether it works or not, the rest of the world can't afford to stop watching. The Sinpo-Class Submarine may look odd with its green coat, but beneath that paint is a much deeper story, one of ambition, strategy, and warning. Whether it's truly a leap forward or just theater, North Korea has made it clear. Their underwater game is evolving. From aging Romeo Class relics to modern missile launches, the seas around Korea just got more unpredictable. One thing is certain, no one's ignoring them now. If you want to stay ahead of what's happening under the surface, hit subscribe, check out our next video, and join the journey into the world's most secretive naval force.